listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Black 33.
Live at the studio of Worldwide Sports Radio.
All right, let's go.
It's the Third and Long Show. And here's your hosts, Matty Caps and KT Hepburn.
And welcome, everybody, to a brand new show of Third and Long here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We are live, Hop Hog, New York. You got myself, Mr. Matty Caps, along with my good friend, co-host, producer, confidant, comrade. I'm actually going to say I'm his mentor. He loves me. Mr. Speedy Petey in the house as well. Mr. Speedy Petey, how was your weekend?
It was good. Filled with a lot of good football, a lot of
Entertainment.
A lot of good football, a lot of good food. And my grandparents on my mother's side house, I visited them one last time because they might be going to Florida soon.
Oh, get out of here. They're moving to Florida.
No, they go there every year.
Oh, during the winter? They're
Yeah.
snowbirds? Gotcha.
Plus, I visit some relatives down there, so it might be their last weekend there. So went to go see them one more time and watch a lot of football.
That's good. But, man, what a weekend it was, to be honest with you. And we got lucky enough that about an hour ago, a couple stories broke that we're going to talk about first, obviously. But what a weekend of NFL divisional playoffs. There is just so much I can say about this football playoff so far. There's not been one game that hasn't been entertainment. I mean, it made maybe one, and that was 2 weeks ago when it was the Eagles and the Seahawks in that game. But honestly, in all the games so far, it has been very, very entertaining throughout the whole thing. Like you saw the football games this weekend. I mean, the Ravens losing. I'm going to talk about that because I have a lot to say about Lamar Jackson and all his lovers out there. Lamar Jackson got exposed, okay? And I'm going to say it again. He got exposed. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
For that kind of offense.
He got exposed. The Niners just blew out the Vikings. You knew that was coming after Kirk Cousins decided to talk crap in the locker room after getting his first big win in the playoffs, okay? You knew that was coming, and that was coming in a harsh reality. But then you look at the Titans, not the Titans, the Chiefs and the Texans, and that game, the Houston Texans, Bill O'Brien, you're on your way out. We know you're on your way out, so I'm not really going to say much about that. But 24-0 lead, you kind of just blew it. But again, when you're going up against a prolific offense like the Kansas City Chiefs and all that stuff, it's tough to say not. And then we got lucky enough to watch two future Hall of Famers and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers go at each other at night. And again, another good game. Packers let them back into the game. Russell Wilson showed it. I'm going to talk about that first down by Jimmy Graham that, again, I don't think was a first down. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't think it was a first down either, but they also showed on Twitter after the game that the TV line was also inaccurate.
Yes, and I get that. But again, the way you looked at it, if you looked where the marker was on the field and where he put his elbow down, I thought it was a little short. But,
I thought it was
but who are we to say that LaFleur wasn't going to go for it on that 4th and inches to put the game away anyway? So the shoulda, woulda, coulda, or whatever, I don't like to play that game at all. But Speedy, big news just happened, ladies and gentlemen. If you did not hear, we're going to talk about Major League Baseball right now. If you did not hear, the Houston Astros general manager, Jeff Luhnow, and A.J. Hinch about an hour ago were suspended for the full season, 162 games this upcoming season. And then about a half hour ago, they got fired from their jobs, from their positions. The Houston Astros took initiative and fired those two guys. Now, Speedy, before I get into it, I'm curious on what you think about this situation and stuff, because now I'm even more intrigued to see what's going to happen to Alex Cora, because what I'm hearing from Alex Cora is that he's going to be suspended for life.
That could be, because I think he was the only commonality to both cases. So I think he is going to end up getting suspended indefinitely. Will it be for life? We'll see, because obviously it'll depend on what other scandals come out.
Of course. You're going to hear more.
everybody said when the Astros did it, don't be surprised if there's other teams doing it too. And obviously,
Of
the Red
course,
Sox
there
are
is
caught
other
after
teams
that.
doing it.
But
There are.
I agree. I think he'll end up getting suspended indefinitely. In terms of the Astros' whole situation, the fine, the punishment was about what I thought it would be. I thought it would be more on the draft picks and less on the games.
Speedy, you're on Twitter, right? I'm sure you follow some athletes and whatnot. If you see what the GMs are saying and stuff, they saying, like, before they got fired, they were saying it was a slap on the wrist, and they thought it wasn't enough. And in my opinion, I don't think it was enough either for what that happened.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it could have been a little more, but it was a kind of, in terms of what I expected, about the same level of magnitude of what I expected. I actually thought it would be more on the draft picks and maybe the fine of the organization, and less on the actual suspension of the games more than anything else, because the Astros still have the players there. They still have talent, and I don't think they're suspending any of the analytics department where it's going to stop them from games. So I actually thought they'll be a little harsher in terms of the future, in terms of letting them build up talent and prospects and money, obviously signing free agents and stuff like that. But it turned out to be the other way around. They suspended Hinch and Lunau for the rest of the year, and they obviously got fired after that, which I actually think, for the Astros' sake, it was the right decision to fire Hinch, because I actually think, in terms of getting a new manager and getting their feet wet for this year.
You want to know what's kind of funny about this? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Speedy.
Go for it.
But remember when everybody was saying analytics this and analytics that? Can we possibly say it's maybe because they were cheating to a point, and it wasn't so much the analytics and all this stuff?
Well, sure, but part of the analytics standpoint is micromanaging certain details of the game, and that's what the Astros have done so well so long. I mentioned many times how well they rebirth pitchers that people thought were done. The same thing with certain veteran hitters. They made better than expected. So analytics matter for a lot of different phases of the game, but obviously they cheated, and it made a difference against the Dodgers in a World Series. And that was a 7-game series, a close series, so that was obviously a big difference. So they can't just get off the hook like that. But going back to what I was saying with the managing, if you're going to hire a new manager, whether it's within the organization or outside the organization, this is a kind of year that's going to be tough anyway, so you might as well have them get used to the management of the aspect of the game. And then when they have maybe a little more stability and a little less pressure, maybe, whatever ends up happening with the organization, and maybe some even more players, now that they'll have an actual GM, they'll be a little more able to get used to the game at least. So I don't mind the decision to fire Hinch. I am surprised they fired Lunau, though, but like we said...
Well, he's part of it. He's the guy.
I know. And when the first came out, we mentioned, and other shows have mentioned, that there was front office involvement in it. Whether he's the guy or not, I don't know, but there was messages sent. There was evidence found in the Astros team facilities that there was signals sent from the front office to the center field camera guy, and there was also, and they ended up being the one with the intent. So whether it was directly Lunau or not, it made sense why they fired him. I'm just still surprised with how good of a GM he's been that they would end up going him. I would rather for him just eat up the suspension and let him keep going, because managers now, and we discuss this all the time, are easier to replace because it's a very analytic-driven league. It's
of course.
Front office.
Speedy, you and I could go manage a professional baseball team right now.
But with the GM, it could be harder. So
of course.
It's just interesting, but I understand it and just try to avoid all the controversy.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, the Houston Astros have went above the ruling of Major League Baseball, okay? Instead of them still having their jobs within the organization, General Manager Jeff Lunau and manager A.J. Hinch were fired by owner Jim Crane on Monday, today, about a half hour ago, after the announcement of discipline from Major League Baseball. And again, if you guys don't know what it was a league investigation, and that the Houston Astros had cheated by using a camera-based sign-stealing system during the regular season and playoffs of their World Series winning 2017 season. So, again, it's really interesting. I mean, it's not interesting. They got caught, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They got caught cheating, okay? They tried to play it off like it was nothing. They came down with, in my opinion, not a stiff penalty for A.J. Hinch or Lunau. The Astros went above them and fired them for their taking in that, okay? But now, Speedy, I ask you this. A.J. Hinch is going to be on the market. He's still going to be a hot commodity, don't you think? Or you think this really puts a damper on him? right now?
It depends. I think there could be some really bad, desperate teams that maybe will have to take that kind of chance. And I think the same thing with Lou now, too. I think if there's a team that's really that bad and needs just any kind of fresh start, they may be the team to take that kind of chance. I can't see a contending team going for either of them. I just think that it'll be too much of an issue with the media, with the scandals. I think it'll be just too much pressure on the players, I think, in terms of what's surrounding them. And it's a lot of the players that and other coaches that drove this kind of thing on. So I don't know if a contending team would take that kind of chance. A really bad bottom feeder, maybe just to spark something within the organization, might do it. I can't see, at least for now, Hinch getting a job anytime soon, though. And I think Lou now, just because I think in terms of the way that between the analytics and between the players he's brought in, has done a nice job. I could see him getting a job maybe within the next 2 years, but I don't see Hinch for a while.
Yeah, it's possible. I think this is going to put a damper, and it's going to rub people the wrong way to see this happen. But I think A.J. Hinch will become a hot commodity once again. Possibly, obviously not this season because he's already suspended for this season. So there's no team that's going to hire him this season. But, Speedy, you and I both know how the coaching carousel goes in baseball. After the season, everybody gets fired right away. A.J. Hinch will be talked about every which way. But you look at it right now, and as part of the league's penalty, the Houston Astros will lose first and second round draft picks in 2020 and 2021. The organization was fined a record $5 million, which is nothing to Jim Crane. It's chunk change to him. $5 million to Jim Crane and the Houston Astros is a penny to Speedy and I. It's literally nothing. So you look at this situation right now, and obviously there's more people that got caught, i.e. Alex Cora, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming forward. And now Major League Baseball is going to be on top of this every which way, okay? So I'm intrigued to see how this is going to happen, but the Alex Cora situation, I'm hearing through the grapevine, is that he's going to get suspended. Not suspended. He's going to get thrown out of Major League Baseball, and he's going to get banned for life from Major League Baseball for his partake in that. And I'm curious to know what Jeff is going to say because, Speedy, you and I both know how Jeff defends his teams more than anything. I'm curious to know what Jeff is going to say, okay, about Alex Cora. He's probably going to be like, oh, he didn't do anything. It's not Alex Cora and all this stuff. No, it is Alex Cora. And every which way. He was implicated in the schemes and he was not disciplined, but he is expected to receive a similar to a harsher penalty upon the completion of an investigation that they used a replay room in 2018. And also keep in mind, Alex Cora was the bench coach for the Houston Astros during that 2017 season.
Right. And I said this on a home stretch. I don't know if I said it on your show, but I think once they find more evidence with the Red Sox one, because it's kind of newer, I actually think that what they ended up doing because of the replay room technology, what's available in there with TriCaster technology, with cameras, audio players, audio technology, audio boards, anything like that, what they end up doing could be worse, where they could actually get hit harder, I think, depending on what else.
Oh, Alex Cora is going to. I would not be surprised if he gets banned for life from Major League Baseball.
But not even just him. I'm talking about the team in general.
Yeah, but they're going to lose draft picks. They're going to lose money.
Right. I'm saying they could lose more, is what I'm saying.
Yes,
just
of
because
course.
of what's available to them with a replay.
But it's not even that. Alex Cora was on the bench. He was the bench coach for the Houston Astros during the 2017 season. There's obviously a huge difference now with him now coming to be the manager of a big storied franchise organization in the Boston Red Sox. Okay, he has his feet dipped in both sides. He's gonna get the death penalty. He needs to get the death penalty. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Alex Cora deserves the death penalty right now. Lunau, he got a slap on the wrist. A.J. Hinch, he got a slap on the wrist. Okay, they get to sit out a year. Get the hell out of here. They have to start making
fired. It might be more than a year.
He'll be back. they have to start making examples of people, and this is the prime time for Major League Baseball to find some cojones that they lacked, okay, and put down a harsh penalty. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It needs to happen. Don't you agree? Don't you agree something like this needs to happen?
It'll happen. I think you'll end up seeing more over time with more evidence coming out. I think in terms of Hinch and Luhnow, I think what they got, I think obviously them getting fired, and you think they'll get a job quicker than I do, but, I mean, it's one of those things where that was still even more harsh than I thought. When I thought the Astros would lose out on more, because you're right, they just fired those guys to get rid of everything that was around them, but them getting the draft picks and the money compensation lost, actually, that is what I thought.
That hurts. I thought I was going to see international money to get lost as well.
But I also thought that could have actually been harsher than it was, too, more than the actual games. I thought that's where the emphasis of the fines and the punishment would end up being, just because of how well of a player of development organization and player, I guess, finding organization that the Astros have been lately with the way they develop players. So actually I thought that would be what would be the harsher penalty, especially with the draft picks and the money.
Yeah, of course, but now you look at it like this. Pete Rose was banned for gambling on games. And he's banned. He can't even get into the Hall of Fame. And he would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame because he gambled on games. These guys actually freaking cheated. Okay? Gambling on games isn't cheating. I hate to break it to people. Gambling is not cheating. Now, throwing games for your benefit is cheating. Right. And that's the difference. But here's the thing.
But who says that didn't happen either?
Though? Well, they looked into it. Pete Rose didn't gamble on himself or anything. Like, he didn't do any of that. Right. He gambled on other games just to enjoy. And if you're going to really sit there right now, and if you think professional athletes don't gamble on sporting events, you guys are so naive and so dumb, because every single athlete gambles on different sporting events.
The Cardinals just lost a corner for that, too, for the whole year. Josh Shaw got caught for the same thing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's crazy. I sit here and I look at it. It's nuts to me. It's nuts. I'm not. I don't know what else to say. But he needs to get the death penalty. He needs the harshest penalty coming to Alex Cora going forward. So, Speedy, you look at all this situation, and obviously you haven't read Rob Manfred's transcript yet, because it was like a 9-10-page thing. But this scheme, this has been going on for a little while. Now, who are we to say that this hasn't been going on for years upon years upon years throughout Major League Baseball?
Well, the timeline you could assume right now, I think, just because of what the utilization of the replay system has been involved with the Red Sox and obviously with the Astros using the cameras, is when replay first came into baseball. That was 2014. So I don't know if there would have been anything like that before that, just because I don't know how accessible it would have been. Now, the Red Sox and Yankees doing the Apple Watch thing, that could be different, where that could have happened before that. But even Apple Watches, I think, only came out right around 2014 as well. So I don't know how much accessibility they would have had before that. But it's definitely possible where it could have happened in a timeline within 2014 to now. The Giants won in 2014. I don't know if they would have done it, because I think, again, the way they were a wild card team. They're kind of a scrappy, emotional team. I don't know if they would have done it. And same thing with the Royals, too. Now, the Cubs, they're a big market team. They have, obviously, all the pressure at stake for them. Who knows that they could be involved? And, again, just even other playoff teams in general. And I think it's just the magnitude of doing it is going to be just with the playoff teams. Because if you do it in a couple regular season games, unless it's at the end of the season, I don't think it's really going to make that big of a difference. But this being a postseason punishment, especially for the Astros, who did it in what was a close 7-game series. So there was obviously a big difference there. That's going to show a lot more, and that's why I think they're going to look more into it from the contending teams.
Well, you know, the Astros, they have been widely viewed as an organization where the bottom line is everything. And this, in part, led into their recent scandals. And I give Mr. Crane a lot of credit, because he fired them instantly. They got suspended from Major League Baseball. He probably talked with his advisors and everything, and he instantly fired him. Listen, fired both of them. And Crane is clearly not happy with the perception that his Houston Astros are getting right now. And it's clearly showing. So whatever else you might think about Lanau and Hinch, both are very top of their respective professions, but Crane could have stated that the suspensions were adequate penalties and that the team would proceed with them both next season under a no-tolerance policy. But he didn't do that. He went right for the jugular, and he fired them both. And for that, Mr. Crane, I give you a lot of credit for doing that. A lot of credit. But again, Lanau, A.J. Hinch, out of jobs, suspended for a year. Alex Cora, you're on deck, buddy. You're next to go. I cannot wait to see what kind of penalty the Boston Red Sox are about to get. I'm really intrigued by that situation.
I don't think it'll come out for a while just because the replay.
No, I think it's going to come out quicker than you think.
Well, just because it's a newer investigation. I don't know if it'll come out that quickly. Like I said, what is available in the replay room is a lot more sophisticated in terms of the technology available. So, I think they're going to get hit harder than the Astros did, but it might not be for a while. It might not be even into spring training. I don't know, but you're right. I think Cora is going to end up getting suspended indefinitely. I don't know about for life. We'll see if more ends up happening. I think later on it could be, but definitely indefinitely he's not going to manage it. And I think the Red Sox know that he's about to get hit hard too, so he may end up they may even have to start looking for a new manager now.
and Speedy, before we do go to break, I want to ask you one more time: how much impact will this punishment have on the Astros on the field?
On the field. It depends on what new manager they end up getting, because I think that's the biggest wild card in this, because they still have the analytics department. They still have players there right now. It's not like their players are getting suspended too. If they ended up getting suspended, it would be a different issue. There's going to be pressure, I think, just from this, and the players, I think, will get rattled to some extent, but they'll still be a competitive team. I don't think it'll hurt them too badly on the field. Are they going to be a juggernaut? No. Are they going to still be competitive? Yeah. Are they guaranteed to win the division now? No, I don't think so.
I mean, I look at it right now. Losing Hitch is not going to help the Houston Astros. He's obviously thought of as one of the baseball's best managers. And Speedy, we've done the manager situation before.
Right, but now we know that's aided from.
But from a tactical and clubhouse standpoint, okay, and still let's not forget that bench coach Joe Espada is highly respected and was already viewed as one of baseball's top managerial prospect, so it's going to be interesting to see if he gets the can or if he gets an interview, because he's part of that coaching staff. So it's going to be intriguing to see what Jeff Crane does going forward. And again, they have a lot of stuff to do in this offseason, the Houston Astros, from contracts to free agency and all that good stuff. So it's really, really going to be interesting to see. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to cover today going forward, and we are going to take a quick break, and when we do come back from break, I'm going to tell you why Lamar Jackson got exposed, and we're going to get into some of the divisional games. We're going to get into that when we come back here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You are listening to the Third and Long Show, and here's your hosts, Matty Caps and KT Hepburn.
1-845-478-3272 is the new number to reach us here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We are live here in Hauppauge, New York. I'm Matty Caps, along with my co-host, producer, good friend, confidant, comrade, Mr. Speedy Petey as well. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to step away from A.J. Hinch, the Houston Astros, and Major League Baseball, because, again, I could talk about everything for so long, and we're on a short time here. I want to get into the divisional games. And, Speedy, I know you and we were talking before the show about the divisional games and what we thought about the divisional games and whatnot. And there is one game in particular that really, really gets under my skin greatly. And you want to know what that game is, Speedy? The Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans game. We're going to talk about that, okay? Because I have a lot to say about the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans. But one thing I am going to say, and I'm going to say this proudly, is that Lamar Jackson, for all you lovers of Lamar Jackson out there, he got exposed at the weekend. Exposed by the Tennessee Titans. Exposed by Mike Vrabel. This happened. And I hate to break it to all of you, but he did. He got exposed. Speedy, talk to me about this game. What did you think about this Tennessee Titan? One, Derrick Henry, number one. And number two, what do you think about Lamar Jackson now going forward? Don't get me wrong, okay? I say he got exposed. It's not like he's late in his career or whatever. This is his second year, okay? But, Speedy, I'm curious for you. What do you think about this game and how it played? Because it was just dominant throughout the entire game. Dominance.
Yeah, I knew the Titans' defense had the best identity to take on the Ravens, and I said that all week. I said that at the end of the season in the regular season. If I were the Ravens, I would do everything I can when they play the Steelers Week 17 to let them in and not the Titans, because I was afraid of the way their defense was built. This was without Jayon Brown, too. The way their defense was built had the best chance of containing the Ravens' style of offense, and that showed. Their outside linebackers were doing a great job containing. Lamar Jackson, until really the third quarter, was not running at all. I think he had 30 rushing yards in the first half. And the Titans were really only letting him run later in the third quarter when they had a bigger lead.
Oh, yeah, when they were getting blown out and they were in a prevent defense. It's stupid.
But it wasn't really
numbers are skewed. When
Right.
they were getting blown out, the Tennessee Titans sat in a prevent defense to not give up any big play.
I wouldn't even say it was a prevent defense, though. I think it was more of the fact of we're not going to let you have these yards after the catch kind of runs, because we see Lamar Jackson throughout the regular season really do a good job putting receivers in certain spots too. Whether he was actually throwing the ball well or not is another question, but he was putting his defense in the right spots in terms of him getting yards after the catch, and that's what they weren't allowing. So I don't know if it was necessarily a prevent defense, but they were doing a much more.
They weren't allowing him to give up the big play. That's a prevent defense. They
Right.
weren't allowing it.
But it's also a concept too. But my point is they were blitzing more. They were using traditional rushes more. I think more than they were trying to take out his contain, because they knew running at that point was going to keep the clock rolling, and that's what they wanted to do. I think it was more of that than a prevent defense. But regardless, they weren't letting him run. They were doing a great job containing. I actually tweeted this, which was pretty funny. I never would have thought the Kamale Correa revenge game would have been a thing. Former Raven, but he played really well in that game. He's a part-time player. He played really well in that game, and they used him well. And then Harold Landry on the other side played very well, but also the interior played very well. Jeffrey Simmons, Jarrell Casey, they played very well getting interior pressure, which is hard to do on a running quarterback because they can usually see that right away, and they did a nice job as well. So I think it was just a great defensive game plan. It was just a great defensive structure, and I kind of saw that coming. What I didn't expect was the Ravens' defense to have some trouble the way they did. Derrick Henry was unreal, but even 190 yards against the Ravens I thought was impossible too, but he proved that he's on just an historic pace right now.
Speedy, I want you to tell everybody what I said during the week last week on Thursday. What did I say? In order for the Tennessee Titans to win this game or have a shot in this game, what did I say they had to do?
They had to hope Derrick Henry rushed for, 150 yards, you said?
I said 150-plus yards for them to have a shot or to win the game. What did Derrick Henry rush for?
195 yards.
195 yards.
Which was, again, that was the factor I didn't consider, because the Ravens' defense is phenomenal too. So you got a great front. You got, like the Titans, great outside rushing linebackers. So you just didn't expect him to do it again, because especially with the Ravens' defensive coaching too, their very creative schemes. Obviously, John Harbaugh with some influence into that too. You would have expected them to be more conscious of it. And for a quarter and a half, they really were. I think Derrick Henry started breaking out more into the second quarter later. And then the second half, he was just going off at that point. But I just would have never imagined that to be the case with a defense that good in the Ravens. So that's why I still picked them to win the game. But I knew the Titans' defense could definitely hang tough because of the way their defense is structured. Fast middle linebackers, outside rushers, and like I said, the safeties also being very fast too, to be able to contain Lamar Jackson running and stopping really that heavy motion RPO offense. And that ended up making a big difference. Defense led to offense led to time of possession, and the Ravens' defense at that point, just with Derrick Henry dominating the way he did, just got tired.
It's so much of the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel, I want to clap for you. I want to shake your hand. I want your autograph. You are, by far, your resume is just getting bigger and bigger and better every which way. You're pulling all the right strings right now for your Tennessee Titans team. And the first thing you did was by benching Marcus Mariota for Ryan Tannehill. So hats off for you right there. But the second thing that you did was getting the best out of Derrick Henry he has been getting the best out of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is the single most important person on that Tennessee Titans team, and it's not even remotely close. You're talking about a guy who is 6'3", 245 pounds, physical specimen, downhill runner that could run over everybody. What, Speedy, look it up. What's his average yards per carry in this playoffs? I want to say it's 4.5 or more, but you look at Derrick Henry as a whole with this Tennessee Titans team, everything revolves around him. Ryan Tannehill hasn't thrown the ball more than, I want to say, 30 times in these past 2 postseason games. I want to say I know he threw it like 14 times last time, and I think maybe 15 times the week before. So
and less than 100 yards in both those games.
Yeah, and less than 100 yards and dominating every which way. They dominated the New England Patriots. They absolutely made Baltimore look like they never played football before.
He's averaging in this postseason 5.9 yards.
5.9 yards per carry. That is absolutely absurd. Absurd. Is that a record? I feel like that's pretty close.
It very much could be.
Very, very close to a postseason record. But now let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, you look at the Baltimore Ravens right now as a whole. They are in a complete shock of what just happened. Okay? You look at what happened. The Baltimore Ravens got beat at their own game. They got beat at their own game. They knew they had to stop the Tennessee Titans running game. They knew they had to stop Derrick Henry. And the Ravens still couldn't stop him. The Ravens tried 6- and 7-man defensive fronts. They tried an assortment of run blitzes using linebackers, safeties, and cornerbacks. And they still couldn't slow Derrick Henry down, who rushed for 195 on 30 carries. This looks like Derrick Henry. He looks like he should be in a legendary era with like the Jim Browns, the Earl Campbells and stuff, and Jamal Lewis with the way he was running the ball and whatnot. It was just unbelievable about that. Now, I sit back here and I say Lamar Jackson got exposed. And I'm going to tell you why I think Lamar Jackson got exposed. Lamar Jackson got exposed because his weakness as a passer was exposed because he could not connect on passes outside the numbers. His arm strength isn't there. Lamar Jackson threw the ball 59 times. The Ravens aren't built for him to throw the ball 59 times. The Ravens aren't going to win with him throwing the football 59 times. There's a few select quarterbacks who I could probably name on my one hand who can throw that ball that often and win. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. Who am I missing?
Peyton Manning.
And Peyton Manning, and Andrew Luck, like stuff like that. Like, there's not a lot of people that could win the ball throwing the ball 59 times. It's just not going to happen. So Lamar Jackson got exposed at the weekend because it showed his weakness in his arm strength. It showed his weakness as a passer. And it showed that right now Lamar Jackson cannot win a playoff game. He didn't win a playoff game last year.
Nope.
It is showing right now that he cannot win a playoff game. And this is going to be the NFL MVP. Because let's be real, he's winning the NFL MVP. Okay?
No MVP has won a Super Bowl since 1999.
And it's not happening now. Nope. And it's not happening now. So that is why I think Lamar Jackson got exposed for everybody killing me on social media when I said Lamar Jackson got exposed at the weekend. He got exposed at the weekend. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you want to know another thing that was not even shocking to me? How many tight spirals did Lamar Jackson throw at the weekend? You can count it on one hand. I'm going to say 4. Every other pass that he has thrown, they look like wounded ducks in the air. They were god-awful passes. He was missing his receivers. He was throwing behind his receivers. And yes, I know that Baltimore Ravens had 8 drop passes or 9 drop passes. And if you go look at all those drop passes, a couple of them were behind them that hit their hands. Okay, a couple of them were over their heads where they jumped and they hit their hands.
A lot of them were in traffic, too.
Yes, and a lot of them were in traffic.
I think the Titans' defense still made it very tough on them because they play a lot of man coverage, too, against, again, Ravens skill players that outside of Mark Andrews aren't very good.
And that's the whole thing. Now, the rookie for Baltimore is pretty good.
Marquise Brown. He was kind of streaky, though. I wouldn't say
I said pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't call him a number 1 receiver, but he has to be on that team because they don't have anyone else with the receivers.
And here's another thing. Also, why I was getting killed on social media, Speedy, is because people were saying they have no weapons. Are you really going to sit there and tell me a team that went 14-2 with a historic offense has no weapons? I get it. Brandon Ingram wasn't 100%, and it showed. Okay, it showed. I mean, not Brandon Ingram. Mark Ingram. I'm thinking of the NBA player. God, Mark Ingram wasn't 100%. Andrews got hurt in the game.
Right. That was the biggest thing I did.
But he still came back and had a few good catches to keep them somewhat in the game. Okay? To sit back here and say they have no weapons to a team that went 14-2 and have an historic offense is just asinine. And it makes absolutely zero sense for people to say things like that.
But again, when you have a defense that's so tough like that, like the Titans are, sometimes you need those other guys to break through, and that's where I think having a number 1 receiver could have helped for that kind of game because the Titans were obviously game planning for what the Ravens' strengths are. They're taking away the running, they're taking away the RPOs, and with that, they have to sacrifice something. It's still an 11-on-11 game, so they were playing all man coverage on those wide receivers, or they were playing zones in terms of the spots of where their most common routes are, whatever. They were still trying to have one-on-one coverage with them either way, whether it was physical man, physical zone, whatever. So another receiver to stretch the field or a healthy Mark Andrews definitely could help in those kinds of circumstances too, because Marquise Brown's not a number 1 receiver, and everything past then is they're not number 2s, they're not number 3s. So you're trusting a lot of guys to play in spots they're not supposed to. Now, obviously, for the Titans' sake, Malcolm Butler being hurt was a big deal for them too. But so that maybe makes your argument a little stronger, but it's still Logan Ryan, good corner. Still Adoree Jackson, good young corner, fast corner that can keep up with Marquise Brown. So you still have the wondering of, all right, where are these guys going to get other production if those guys are taken out because Andrews wasn't healthy, obviously, and Ingram wasn't healthy. And those are their top 2 weapons. And then Lamar Jackson, who's the biggest weapon for them, obviously that's who they're game planning for. So extra weapons I still think could have helped.
Okay, could have helped. But to say they have 0 weapons is the reason why they lost is just asinine. I'm sorry. When you have an historic offense that put up historic numbers, you go 14-2, okay, the number 1 seed. To say you have no weapons is the most asinine thing I could ever hear someone say. I'm sorry, and that's truly how I feel.
They have no receiving weapons, wide receivers specifically, but they still had weapons.
I disagree to a point. But again, now in this game now too, and Speedy, I say this a lot about everything because I'm a big component of it. Where are the games won? Down in the trenches. Mm-hmm. The fat guys. Who dominates who? Okay? And if your 5 fat guys can beat their 5 fat guys, you're probably going to win. And guess what? The Tennessee Titans fat guys won down in the trenches. And oh, did they ever. Besides pulling up the biggest postseason upset of the last 2 games, they look like a better and more balanced team in the NFL playoffs right now out of all the teams left. The Baltimore Ravens, they have a great running attack of their own, probably the best in the league, but they don't have a power back like the 6'3", 245-pound Derrick Henry. Tennessee has an offensive line that was very similar to the Baltimore Ravens. They're not athletic, but they can be powerful at the point of the attack and running a game.
Right.
And the Titans just showed if you run the ball so well that they ran the Ravens right out of their offense.
And the interesting part with what the Titans did, too, is when the Ravens were stopping their running game in the first quarter and early in the second quarter, they actually adjusted to run towards their weaker part of the offensive line, too. Their 2 tackles are very good. Taylor Lewan's one of the best in the league, and Conklin's a nice right tackle. What they actually lost in the offseason was their 2 interior guys. They lost Quentin Spain and they lost Josh Klein. Now, they signed Roger Saffold, which helped, too, but they ran at their weaker spots of their offensive line just to take advantage of what the Ravens were game planning for, and it ended up working better for them, which was very interesting. And obviously, Derrick Henry, with how big he is, has to help with that, too.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. But again, also let's look at it like this. Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman was outcoached by Titans defensive coordinator and former Ravens defensive coordinator Dean Pease.
Mm-hmm. I said that would have some influence, too. I didn't think it would be that much, but he definitely did.
And let's talk about Harbaugh and his analytics. The Ravens went for 2 4th-and-1s, gambled on the 4th-and-1s, and they got stuffed. And that led to Titans getting 14 points off getting stuffed right there. So the analytics are a mess sometimes.
Right, and
especially when the opponent are beating you at the line of scrimmage.
And also,
that's the problem.
And also, I think in terms of one of them would be the game situation. I think they were too far back for a field goal anyway. So one was understandable, but you're also dealing with a team that has the best kicker in football, so it's also surprising that they did it down 14-6 when it was going to be a scrappy game anyway. Every point at that point mattered. I think the second time around, and it was a makeable field goal too. I think it was a 42-yard kick or something like that. So the second time they went for it, I think it was later in the third quarter, was a bit surprising. The first time, it would have been about a 59-yard field goal. It made sense at that point.
Yeah. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step away from the Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans game. And I want to talk about the fun game yesterday. The Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. Speedy, what did you think about that game? Very, very weird. Mm-hmm. Weird game to watch. Like, I witnessed that. I couldn't believe it when the Houston Texans went up 24-0. But again, a lot of stuff went their way. They scored on their first touchdown of the game, the 54-yard pass to Kenny Stills was a breakdown in coverage by the 2 guys in the back, and he was wide open. No one was even near him, okay? Then they scored on a blocked punt, and then they scored on a muffed punt. So it really wasn't a dominant performance by the Houston Texans, especially in the first quarter and a half.
Right.
Am I right, Speedy? What did you think about that?
Yeah, it was a very fluky 24-0. It wasn't something where the Texans were completely dominating them the whole game. There was a short field. There was a muffed punt. Blown coverage, I think, was more, all right, they're trying to, 1, double-team DeAndre Hopkins, and 2, they were trying to stop the other guy from getting the first down. So you took a chance on a big play and hoped your pass rush can get there. I could understand that a little more than just a simple, all right, this guy got outmanned at the line of scrimmage, blown coverage. But also, again, it was kind of fluky. Kenny Stills is as fluky of a player as you can get. He's great for 3 games a year, and then he won't show up for the others. So it was kind of fitting that he got that touchdown. So it was kind of a fluky 24-0. There were definitely some issues that I thought the Texans had with some play calling, especially on first down. And also, some of the fourth down decisions were very strange. Obviously, the one that everyone's talking about is the fake punt, which made no sense whatsoever. I thought when it was 21-0 and they had the ball in the close to the red zone, I don't know if it was in the red zone, I thought they should have gone for it there. If worst-case scenario, you'll leave the Chiefs with a short field. Because 24-0, 21-0, how big of a difference would that have made? And I think really,
every point matters in the playoffs.
That's fair, but I also think at the same time, field position matters in the playoffs too. And they could have, worst-case scenario, left the Chiefs with a really short field. So I wouldn't have minded if they went for it there, especially with the way that the momentum was clearly on their side. So from that essence of it, it's definitely something where I think it was kind of a fluky 24-0. And I just think in terms of the decisions they made as a whole, it still wasn't great for a lead of that magnitude. So I knew it was something that the Chiefs could come back from because they weren't – it's not like they weren't executing, except for the special teams, really. They weren't executing that much worse than the Texans' offense and defense were. So I knew it was something they could come back from. And obviously the coaching decisions that Bill O'Brien made on fourth down really crippled them at times too. And again, just the play calling, I think Romeo Crennel – on defense really had trouble too. The biggest thing I think that take away from this game and this matchup, I don't know why they kept going to. Why is a corner in Lonnie Johnson, not just a corner, a rookie corner who's a fourth stringer, playing man-to-man on Travis Kelce is most mind-boggling thing I saw.
Who's probably the best tight end in football.
Sure. And why is a corner on him the whole game? You have two talented middle linebackers in McKinney and Zach Cunningham. Either have one of them on man-to-man, which still would be hard, but have one of them man-to-man or have them bracket him.
One guy in front of him, one guy behind him.
Right.
You have to do something.
Sure. So you have a case like that where that game plan, I think, was really flawed by Romeo Crennel. But also, again, like I was saying, the offensive game planning was really bad, too. It seemed like they were just trying to run all the time on first down. It seemed like they were trying to just force-feed Hopkins. And Watson did fine. I'm not really blaming him for the loss, but he could only do so much when you're having that much pressure. And we knew the offensive line would be bad in that game. So it was a kind of a fluky 24-0, and I'm not surprised the Chiefs were able to come back based on what the Texans were doing. And the coaching advantage from Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo really showed in that game. And
I love Steve Spagnuolo. He won me a Super Bowl with the New York Giants. I have a soft spot for Steve Spagnuolo as a whole, and I just love him. But you look at this Kansas City Chiefs offense, okay? You look at this offense. This offense yesterday, I cannot see them scoring less than 40 points a game the rest of the season. I just can't see it.
Nobody thought the Titans would hold the Ravens' defense to 12, though, so keep that in mind.
Agreed. But, again, they saw a 42-year-old Tom Brady who isn't himself. And they saw Lamar Jackson, who, in my opinion, Speedy, you know how I feel about him. He's right in front of Andy Dalton as the worst quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Right. I'm not even talking about the quarterbacks.
They're going to be going after Patrick Mahomes, who is doing absolutely wonders with that Kansas City Chiefs offense.
Oh, he's a lot more talented at this point. I'm just saying, in terms of the types of offenses they are.
It's not even close. This Chiefs offense, they scored 7 straight possessions when they went down 21-0.
Right.
Or 24-0, whatever it was.
Right.
7 straight possessions.
That's fair. I'm just saying, in terms of the concepts of the offense, the Ravens use a lot of motion. The Chiefs use a lot of motion. The Chiefs' offensive line is similar to the Ravens, kind of stronger on the outside. And Mahomes likes to move out of the pocket like Lamar Jackson does. I think there are conceptually some similarities. Now, the difference is the Chiefs have better offensive skill players by far. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, when he's healthy, is better than any receiver the Ravens have. So that, in essence, does make a difference, too. But I still think I would give the Titans' defense a chance. And they played not great, but they played well considering the circumstances in the first meeting, too. The Chiefs had a lot of strange things that went their way in that game, and then the Titans' offense did the rest and came back and won that game. So they have experience with the Chiefs. So
you don't think the Chiefs remember losing to them?
You can remember all you want. That doesn't mean you'll succeed.
Speedy, it sounded like you're on the Tennessee bandwagon against the Chiefs.
I'm just saying I wouldn't expect them to score 40 points. I don't know who's going to win the game yet. I think it's going to be a closer game, and I think it's going to be more of a middle-scoring game, though, from what I'm judging. I don't think the Chiefs are going to score 40 points. That's a lot to ask 2 games in a row.
Speedy, I will bet you a gentleman's bet of $1.
Nice.
Okay?
Nice.
That the Chiefs score 40-plus points at the weekend.
Okay. You got it.
Bet is on. $1.
Bet is on.
$1.
Bet is on.
Bet is on. $1. And I'm going to take your dollar, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it because when they score 40 points or more, okay?
That would show a lot if they do. I'll give them that. I think if they score 40 points on that Titans defense, which is very talented, they are very balanced, and they could play in a lot of different ways. If they could do that, that would prove a lot for the Kansas City Chiefs of what they could do in a potential Super Bowl matchup with either the Niners or the Packers. But
I think it's going to be – I'm not saying it.
Against that kind of defense, it's still going to be very hard with what the Titans can do. They're very deep on different levels. I would imagine they're going to have Jayon Brown play in that game, and I think that'll make a difference. So I do think there will be some, not necessarily containing, but definitely some cancellation where it's going to be hard to see 40 points.
40, huh? You think it's going to be hard?
Yeah. The Titans' defense is really good.
Okay. I guess we'll just wait and see. But Patrick Mahomes, again, ladies and gentlemen, he's playing on another level right now. He again is playing. He might be the MVP for this postseason. That's for sure. If it's not Derrick Henry,
it's easy with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, right now
he's not a bad second option.
Yeah, it's not a bad second option going forward right now. But ladies and gentlemen, we just did the AFC divisional games, and I know I wanted to get into the NFC divisional games today, but it doesn't look like I'm going to have enough time, so we'll get into that on Wednesday because we will not be here tomorrow. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a quick break, and when we do come back from break, we're going to talk about the national championship tonight here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You are listening to the Third and Long Show. And here's your hosts, Matty Caps and KT Hepburn.
1-845-478-3272 is the number to reach us here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We are live here in Hauppauge, New York. We are on Long Island. And now, Speedy, we're going to get into it right now. College football national championship is tonight. Finally, it's here. A 2-week off. It's finally nice that it's coming to fruition, and we get to see arguably the two best teams in college football in the Clemson Tigers and the LSU Tigers. Mm-hmm. So, Speedy, let me ask you.
I think the Tigers win.
You think the Tigers win? You know what? I have to agree with you. I think the Tigers win as well. I think the Tigers are winning in tonight's national championship. But, Speedy, let me ask you this. We look at tonight's game, okay, and there are so many key factors and predictions and whatnot. I want to ask you this. Who do you think has the better overall defense, offense, and what do you think are going to be some key situations or key analysis going forward in this game?
I think talent-wise, LSU, I think, has the advantage in most areas. I think maybe Clemson's secondary might be a little better, maybe defensive line, but it's not by much if you're going to judge that. I think LSU is really the more talented team at this point. I think the more balanced team. Clemson has a very good defense. I'm not saying they don't have a good defense, but it's down from where they were last year. Obviously, statistically, it's still number one in a lot of areas, but also that has to do with them playing in the ACC versus Clemson or versus LSU playing in the SEC. So that has a lot to do with the numbers being skewed more towards Clemson. But LSU, I think, talent-wise, has a lot of advantages. I think the health of Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to make a big difference because he didn't play a lot against Oklahoma, which he didn't need to because they were just blowing out Oklahoma. So he didn't really need to play. I think that'll make a big difference because Clemson does have a good front seven still, and they're going to try to maybe make him run and try to stop Burrow. And that's where I think Clemson is the biggest advantage is the coaching because Dabo Swinney and Brent Venables on defense, I think still with the experience they have, with the ability for them to take out Oklahoma defensively the way they did, and obviously Alabama last year in the championship game. I think that makes a difference. Or not Oklahoma, I said Ohio State, my bad. Ohio State the way they did. That'll end up helping. And LSU, I think, is the more talented team, and I do think the home field advantage, not home field advantage, but
it is basically home field advantage for them.
Like their essential home field advantage will make a difference. So that'll be an interesting matchup. But on paper, I think LSU has the better talent. I think matchups to watch, like I said, are Edwards-Helaire versus that Clemson defense. Also, Isaiah Simmons against Avery Moss. I think will be another one to watch out for because I think you'll see a lot of attention there. Or if it's Tanner Muse or Chad Smith, one of the safeties, that'll be interesting to see because the receivers are going to get theirs because Jamar Chase is really good, and I think Justin Jefferson's very productive.
He's very good.
So I think they'll get theirs, but it'll.
But also keep in mind, Mr. Lawrence over there is Justin Ross and T. Higgins.
Right. That's why I'm saying I think whoever gets the third target, I think will end up being a difference maker. And for LSU, it'll probably be somebody like Avery. Is it Avery Moss? I have to.
No, Thaddeus.
Thaddeus Moss. That's what I have to say. Thaddeus
tight
Moss, the tight end, Randy Moss's son. I think that could be the third guy for Burrow. And for Clemson, will it be somebody like Amari Rodgers? Will it be maybe Etienne out of the backfield? Could it be something like that that's their third weapon?
Amari Rodgers came up big against Ohio State,
yes,
that's for sure.
Right. And I think that could end up making a difference, too, where who's going to be that third option. But again, like I said, I just trust LSU's defense a little more. That pass rush is very good. Christian Fulton, Grant Delpit, they got a lot of talent. Patrick Queen as a linebacker, I think, is very underrated for them. And they're getting some pass rushers back, too, which I think they, with all Clemson lost last year, I think they have a slight advantage in right now. So it'll be interesting to see. I think if Clemson's going to win this game, it's going to be on coaching. And I think it's going to really be on if they can get third options going, which they did against Alabama. Look at all the receivers they had go off in their championship game with Deshaun Watson. They use that kind of thing. 4 receivers at 90 yards. If they can get something like that, they could definitely steal this game. But I think I'm right now going to give the edge matchup-wise to LSU just with the talent they have.
I, for one, am never going to bet against a defending national championship team who hasn't lost a game in 2 years. Trevor Lawrence has never lost a college football playoff game in his career. Since he became the starting role, he has never lost a college football playoff game. He's undefeated in the college ranks right now. And it wouldn't shock me if they win this game, if he goes undefeated again next year and goes undefeated, because you know he's coming out. He's going to be the number one pick after next year's draft.
And the Clemson is the number one recruiting class this year, too.
So
the team's only going to get better.
Yeah. So you sit here and you look at certain things. Joe Burrow has been fantastic. There's a reason why he won the Heisman Trophy. He's been fantastic this entire season. And you're right, Jefferson, Jamar Chase, they are a step ahead. And even then, I think those two compared to Justin Ross and T. Higgins, there may be a slight edge in the LSU's receiving core, and I will give LSU the slight edge. But when you talk about a running back, at the end, he is by far, he might be the best running back in college football.
You could argue that.
And he is going to have the edge going into this game. And, of course, there's other things we could talk about, and we will talk about eventually. The defensive line of LSU and how fast and athletic those guys are. The offensive line of Clemson, who has been a stable front for them going forward. But here's a few things that, Speedy, I'm sure you didn't know, okay? Clemson has had the best pass defense in the country in 2019.
I did know that, but again, like I said, a lot of that could be skewed with playing it against ACC opponents versus LSU, playing SEC opponents.
And you're could be 100% right, but stats don't lie, numbers don't lie, and the numbers show that right now in this day and age, they are the number one pass defense in the country, which can only help. I mean, you look at all these guys on the defense that Clemson has. Wallace, Muse, they have Nolan Turner, Denzel Johnson, which all frees up a guy like Simmons on that front line that could possibly get to Joe Burrow.
A.J. Terrell's a nice corner.
A.J. Terrell, yes. Darion Kendrick, the other corner.
Yep.
All very, very good type guys. And don't get me wrong, Terrell, you love him. He can get a little bit too aggressive sometimes.
Yeah, like I said, I think LSU has a slight advantage there, but it's not by much. I just like Fulton.
But I could see him dialing back a little bit on the aggression because I don't think he's seen the prolific receivers that he's about to face tonight in Jamar Chase and Jefferson, whoever he gets matched up on right away.
Remember, Terrell was the one who had the pick 6 against Alabama last year too. So their receiving core, if it's not ahead of LSU's, is not far behind with all the depth and talent they have with Judy and Ruggs and Devontae Smith and those guys. So he definitely saw it there. But again, that's a one-game sample. So we'll see. Now he being the number one guy, Trayvon Mullen was the number one guy last year. If he can step up in that role against Jamar Chase, who is really talented.
And here's another thing. Like I just brought up Clemson's defense and all that stuff. LSU's red zone offense is pretty mediocre. When they get in the red zone, they're pretty mediocre. And I'm going to tell you, they may be first overall in success rate, but the Tigers are only 61st inside the opponent's 10-yard line, 85th on first and goal, and 104th on the goal line. What does that really tell you about that offense?
They have a small running back. I think that has something to do with it. I like the talent of Edwards-Helaire. I think he's really underrated. But he's a smaller running back, so that has something to do with it. I don't know if LSU really has that other power guy. And I think it also just says that LSU scores from all over the place. I don't think it's really a downgrade. And obviously, we say this about statistics all the time. It's easier in a smaller sample for your stats to fluctuate like they do. So if they're only 61st in the nation, they also could be from them having less attempts. So it's easier to go down when you do miss or do have to settle for a field goal or something like that. So I do think that has something to do with it, too, just for them scoring the big plays the way they do, scoring 20, 30-yard plays the way they do. They may just not have as many attempts, but I don't think they're bad. They're still very good.
Yeah, no. I never said they were bad, and I agree. They're still very good. I was saying they were mediocre in the red zone.
Yeah, maybe in comparison to, I guess, the other contending teams, other top 10, top 15 teams.
Like you have to look at it. They struggled in the red zone against Auburn. They struggled against Mississippi State, which they eventually pulled away from anyway, and stuff. But those teams aren't Clemson.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. Like, these teams aren't each other like they faced before.
But I think the other thing, too, with that is LSU, I think, gets better as the game goes along, too. That Florida game, they got field goals they had one touchdown, and then they had field goals kind of early. The Auburn game, like you were saying, was very close at halftime, and then LSU started to pull away with some late touchdowns. I think those kinds of things help when you look at maybe second-half red zone percentage and second-half red zone touchdown conversion. I think it'll definitely be a lot higher, and that's where I look at LSU having that kind of advantage later on. They're just a really good, especially fourth-quarter team. They're a really good second-half team, though.
Yeah, and that is going to be something to keep our eye on about how they do. But, Speedy, it's coming to the end of our show now. It's 5:35. We're going to get out of here a tad bit earlier than what we said. And I look at this Clemson offense, which their offense is very, very balanced every which way, having Etienne in the back and having those two receivers who complement each other very well. And you look at that defense of the LSU, and you look at the quarterbacks going at each other. In terms of the quarterback play, who has to do more for their team to win the game?
I think in terms of who has to do more, I think it's Burrow, for the purpose of their running back has been dealing with injuries throughout the year. Now, again, they had a lot of time to heal with how big of a gap there were between the two playoff games. So, and him not having to play the second half at all against Oklahoma, that does help. But he's not playing 100%. It's also, again, his first national attention exposure, whereas Etienne's won 2 championships already. So I think from that standpoint, I think Burrow is going to have to do a lot more in terms of having more importance to the passing attack too. And also I think with the way the receiving depth is for LSU, they can really open up a lot more later for the run game. So I think from that standpoint, I think Burrow does have to play a little better. Plus, again, the way the LSU offense is built, it's built on the targets, it's built on the tight end, Thaddeus Moss, and Burrow really just doing what he did. 55 touchdowns, you don't get there for nothing. And also, Etienne as well. When Trevor Lawrence was a little down in the beginning of the season, he had to carry that Clemson offense a lot of the time, too. So he has a little more experience with that if the pass rush is getting to Lawrence or the LSU secondary is playing very well, whatever. I trust him to do that more than if Burrow starts to struggle a little bit against Brett Venables' defense. I trust that Etienne's game could carry a little bit better than Edwards-Helaire. And I don't hate Edwards-Helaire. I think he's very underrated. But I think in terms of the passing game, I think Burrow still matters a little more.
In my opinion, and I'm going to say it again right now, Burrows matters to this team more than they need Burrows to do something more than Clemson needs Trevor Lawrence to do something, because and the only reason why I say this is because Etienne being the running back for Clemson compared to the small guy over at LSU is head above shoulders. Etienne is better than him right now, and if they wanted to dominate a game, they could just run and whatnot, and pass every once in a while if they wanted to. So that's why I think Burrows matters more. But who's the better quarterback in this game? It's Trevor Lawrence, and I don't even think it's remotely close in this game. Regardless of how good of a season Joe Burrows has had, Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in college. He'll be the best quarterback in college next year, and he'll be the number 1 draft pick when it comes time for the NFL draft in 2021. So that's what I firmly believe, how it's going to be and what's going to happen. But again, anything can happen. I've seen crazier things happen. I didn't expect Alabama to get their butts kicked last year, 44-16 against a Clemson team like that.
I had Clemson winning, but I didn't think it would be that much either.
Yeah, but I mean, they were just dominant every which way. So again, this game has. It looks like it's written in the stars. This game is going to be a fantastic game tonight. I just have a gut feeling it's going to be a close one. It's going to be fantastic every which way. And here we go, Speedy. Who wins tonight and why?
I'm going to take LSU. I think it'll be close for a little while. I don't think it's going to be a bad game by any stretch. I don't think you're going to see Clemson just run away with the way they did against Alabama. I don't think you're going to see LSU do that to Clemson. But I do think just with the talent, and again, they've had coaching too, great offensive coaching. I forget the name of their defensive coordinator, but he's very good too, especially with all the guys they had suspended at one point in the season. I just think they just have still a coaching edge. Like we were saying earlier, the home field, it being in Louisiana, doesn't matter. And I just think they're so mentally stable right now. Not that Clemson isn't, but LSU has always been questioned all year. Can they finally do it? Is this for real? Because there were a lot of analysts thinking that it would be a fluke at the beginning of the year, because we've seen this with LSU. They start off strong and they always fall off. They didn't fall off. They beat Alabama. They beat Florida. They obviously destroyed Georgia in the SEC championship game when the urgency factor mattered more for Georgia. So they're just mentally prepared for everything, and they're just dominating on every front. They can win in so many different ways, I think. And I do think Clemson's coaching will take away some things in the beginning of the game. I just think you're going to see some great adjustments. And Burrow is a great improviser, too, with what he does. So I think it'll be close in the beginning. I just trust LSU's defense a little more in terms of their talent level, and those receivers with Burrow I just think is too much, and Joe Brady's offense will be too much. I'm going to take LSU 41-28.
Oh, that's a 10-point plus win. That's it.
Again, I don't think it'll be that dominant of a showing, but I do think they'll.
I don't think the game's going over 65 points.
I think just the way the LSU is just a great second half team, and just them being a little more battle tested, I think will help them. So I'll go 41-28 LSU.
That's a high scoring game. I don't see Clemson giving up 41 points. Okay. But again, I don't see LSU giving up 41 points either. I think I think it's going to be like a 28-24 type game, something like that, or a 31-27 type game that way. I look at it like this, and again, it does come back to me. It comes down to the running game, and the run defense of LSU is good. It's not great. Etienne, again, is arguably the best back in college football, so I think he has the opportunity to have a fantastic game in this national championship. And if Etienne does have a fantastic game, Clemson will win this game tonight. And you want to know what? I'm going to take Clemson tonight. If everything goes the right way, Trevor Lawrence stays healthy, Etienne stays healthy, Clemson's going to win this game tonight. 31-27.
Okay.
The Clemson Tigers are going to win this game tonight. I just don't bet against a team that hasn't lost in 2 years, and they have the better quarterback. And to be honest with you, Dabo Swinney is the better coach than Ed Orgeron. And don't get me wrong, Ed Orgeron has been fantastic. I couldn't be happier for Ed Orgeron right now for what he's gone through and everything when he thought he was going to get the USC job, but they didn't like his voice over there in USC, so they didn't give it to him. No, seriously, that's what happened. They didn't like his voice, so whatever. I couldn't be happier for Ed Orgeron. But again, Dabo Swinney is becoming the Nick Saban of college football, and I don't bet against that. So I'm taking 31-27. The Tigers of Clemson. The Tigers of Clemson. But ladies and gentlemen, that's it for our show here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We will be back on Wednesday at 4 p.m. We're going to go over the college football playoff. We're going to talk about the NFC divisional games, and then we'll start talking about the championship, the AFC and NFC championship games as well. And don't forget, Thursday is our Pick'em Day, and Mark from the Morning Boys was here last Thursday. He enjoyed it. He really liked what we do here on our Thursday Pick'em, so we will be doing that as well. More in depth when we do our games because there's only 2 games, so we're going to have the time to do what we have to do. But again, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for our show here at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.